I'll give them I got a reason for that. Do you mind passing mine out too? Okay, obviously not now, but yeah, when we get up there. Okay.
Yeah, no, I did not. I didn't think they would be able to establish already, because that was most recently. And our minutes don't get moved.
You ready? Okay, we're going to call to order the Torrington Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, October 15th at 6 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Capabianca. Here. Mayor Carbone. Here. Mr. Hinman.
Here.
Mrs. Mona. Here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Nargi. Here. Mr. Rader.
Here.
Mr. Tebow.
Here.
Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mr. Campolita.
Here.
Ms. Clacco.
Here.
Mr. Potter.
Here. Thank you.
Mrs. Lebowski.
Here.
Angie.
Okay, school community session. The board invites excuse me, members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make comments are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including your name and address, which must also be stated at the beginning of your comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person, 10 minutes overall, to guarantee an efficient operation of the entire meeting. Anyone on our list, do you know, Michael?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. We'll have to. Okay, I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda which as amended.
So moved.
I'll tell you the amendment. I need to add number 4, BOE new member discussion and interviews. Then number 4 becomes 5, with the description being changed to Board of Education new member discussion, not interview. And then 5 becomes 6, 6 becomes 7, 7 becomes 8.
So what is 4? I'm sorry.
4 is Board of Ed new member discussion and interview. And then 8 is 9 and so on. I think we can figure the rest of them out. You still want to make that motion? I know. I have to amend this thing.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Jeremy, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, new member, BOE, new member discussion. I'd like to start by going down a little timeline. There seems to be a lot of confusion, a lot of agita, a lot of people upset. The Board of Education by charter is responsible for appointing replacement members to the board. No one else is responsible for that. If we do not complete that task in 2 meetings, 2 regular meetings, or 60 days, that responsibility is passed on to the city council. Now, I had received through email several inquiries for members to become, people interested in becoming a member to the board. The first 2 inquiries were simple. They were Democrats. It is by charter that the seat has to be replaced by someone of the same political party or an unaffiliated registered voter that could switch to a Republican to be on the board. The reason it cannot be a member of one of the other 2, what are considered major political parties, is it takes 90 days for someone to make a switch from Democrat or Independent or Republican to one of the other parties. Therefore, they would not meet the criteria of being able to be a member of the party that has the vacant seat within 60 days. We received a 3rd person that had expressed interest I talked to that person had what I thought was pretty good qualifications. Having not heard anything from the Republican Town Committee, and understand that no political party is responsible for replacing a board member. Only the board is responsible. The political parties make a recommendation, but they're not the responsible party. We are. So having not received anything, and having a member, and knowing that this is our second meeting, and we have a difficulty getting a quorum for special meetings, I added an item to the agenda that said approval of a new Board of Education member, can't speak tonight, and an executive session in case we needed to discuss this appointment. I have been receiving a tremendous amount of flack over this. As board chair, it is my responsibility to make sure that this board adheres to the charter and state statute that we're held under. So, having said that, having not any candidates, I felt it responsible for us to do this. After I put this on the agenda, I did receive a letter from the Torrington Republican Town Committee recommending a candidate. So we have two candidates this evening. We have one that was recommended through them and one that was recommended through board chair. I have had a discussion with a contingency of the Republican Town Committee that is not happy with the way I did this. It was not done with any malice. It was not done with any ill intent. It was, I have a charter that I have to make sure we live up to. I have a timeline that we have to live by. I was out of time. I had a candidate. I put it on the agenda. Now, having said that, on Monday night, I received Christopher Rivero's resignation, which I will read later. So we have two vacant seats on this board. It is now, I'm leaving it up to the board because it has been deemed that I did handle this incorrectly. I don't believe I did, but it has been deemed that. I would like the board to decide. We have the option to fill two seats tonight. We have two candidates in front of us. We have 60 days from Monday, this past Monday, to fill Chris Rivero's seat. We are not under a timeline on that seat. However, on Carl Brady's seat, we only have a few days. So I will open that up for discussion from the board. I just wanted to give the timeline of what happened, why it happened the way it happened, and let you guys decide whether we proceed with one, we proceed with two, we proceed with none. Somebody makes a motion for adjournment, we go home. Yes, Paul?
Just a question. Who deemed that you handled it incorrectly?
Oh, I'm going to say the public.
The what?
The public.
The public?
Well, based on the hate mail, yeah, I would say. I wouldn't say hate mail, just strongly disliking.
Okay, so.
Are you resigning?
No. You want me to?
Well, I mean,
If you do, I'll go. I mean, just say the word, I'll go.
Okay.
I'll make my 3.5-hour drive end much earlier. Yes?
Mr. Chairman, so the safe way for us would be to nominate the person chosen by the letter from the Republican Town Committee or some group therefrom, and then postpone a decision about the other candidate who has been merely in contact with you for further process. We have 2 meetings or 60 days. So that would be the safe way. I would suggest that we do that. Would you like a motion to that?
I'd just like to have the discussion, how everyone feels, and then we can decide how we want to go.
Okay. Well, that's how I feel.
Okay.
John, could I ask your thinking behind why you would do it
The
that way?
normal process is, and this is how Jeremy comes to us, that the town committee, or however that group decides to run its business, but representatives of the town committee put forth a candidate, the board votes on that candidate. Ken described a process where the town committee wasn't involved for the other candidate. And I haven't been in touch with the town committee, so I have no idea who is whom. But I would say that the normal process would be to take the town committee's recommendee and vote up or down on that person. Postponing the other, we have a lot of time for a later date.
Ladies first.
When was the Republican Town Committee notified of the resignation?
Late August,
And when did they put a candidate forward?
Friday night.
But that is in a timely fashion. That fits the timeline. You know, people sometimes take a while.
I think Eleanor,
Andrew, I think you have your hand.
Mine, I think the question's going to be to you, which is maybe you, I believe the town charter stipulates how this process goes as far as filling candidacies. No?
Actually, the only thing that's in the charter is it's the board's responsibility to appoint a new member, and it gives within 2 regular meetings or 60 days. There is no process for anyone to the legal definition is and I'm not going to pick on any party. A political party makes a recommendation
That's
to the
in-
board.
That's in the charter.
No. No, I'm saying the process has been that the political party makes a recommendation to the board,
Okay.
whichever party it is, whoever has the vacancy, and then the board acts on that. Normally, that's how it's done. It hasn't always been done that way, but that is how it's done. The hiccup in it was, because of our posting requirements, I had to put an agenda together the middle of last week. So in the middle of last week, the only information I had was a member of the community who meets all the criteria, who reached out to me and asked if they could be considered for the Board of Education. So, running out of time, I said, we have a possible candidate. That's why we ended up with that candidate.
And that candidate didn't say, or did say that they reached out to the Republican Town Committee,
No, they did not reach out to the Republican.
but they just thought to go to you instead.
I received emails from several, and that person reached out to me, and at the time that that person had reached out to me, we only had days. So instead of getting involved in a lengthy process, I said we would bring that candidate forward and see, because it's not the political party's responsibility to appoint someone. Like, a political party could not nominate someone. They could say, we don't recommend anybody. But we're still held to the responsibility of appointing someone.
Well, since I've been on the board, that's the process that we've always gone through.
As I said, it's
And so
Mostly-
what caused this process to break down?
it was just a timing thing, I believe. I didn't have anything at the time I had to do the agenda, so I went with what I had. Yes?
In fact, it didn't break down. It worked. It just didn't work as early as it sometimes has.
Well, if you see something being done, the board has always accepted the practice that the town committee would recommend a candidate for the board to accept or reject. And that's the way I've always seen
And
it,
that's the way I'm saying to do it tonight.
except that the town committee didn't make a recommendation.
No, they did.
No, they
We have
did.
2 candidates.
They made 2 recommendations.
No,
They made one.
no.
We
This
have a
happened before you
candidate.
got here.
Yeah.
Let's back up. All right. By the time I had to do the agenda, I hadn't heard anything from the RTC.
Okay.
But I had a member of the public who met the necessary criteria to be considered a candidate. We had 3 people reach out. Okay, 2 were from a political party that were not eligible to fill the seat, so that was an easy, thank you very much, we can't help. 1 met the criteria. But it was right before I had to do the agenda. There wasn't time for someone to schedule hearings, so I put it on here to bring that person forward for the board to meet, discuss, interview, whatever, and take action on. After that happened, going into the weekend, I received a letter from the Republican Town Committee. So we have 2 candidates sitting here tonight. But I have,
So
I've also
the first
received
one isn't a
Chris's.
recommendation from the town committee.
First one's a recommendation from the board chair. The second one is a recommendation from the town committee. I was explaining, that's why I've gotten a lot of flack.
Okay, so my suggestion would be to take the Republican Town Committee member their recommendation, let the board debate vote up or down on that candidate, and then deal with the second, your choice second. That would just stay with the practice of how.
Well, and that's the question of how the board wants to proceed. I received Chris's resignation on Monday.
This Monday?
Yes. So I have 2 meetings, or we have 2 meetings or 60 days to fill that seat. We could fill it tonight, we could wait. You know, we can fill 1, we can fill 2, we can fill none. I asked someone to make a motion to adjourn, and we could go home.
What
Result time.
party is Chris? I know.
Republican.
Okay.
Yours.
My party. That's what I mean. Okay.
Ellen.
And I would agree with Mr. Kisko and Mr. Nargi. The practice has always been that this be a recommendation that is advanced from the town committee. I think Mr. Hinman can attest to the fact that he was actually advanced by the town committee as a recommendation. I think Mr. Thibault also can attest that he was advanced as a recommendation from the town committee. To the chairman's point that, you know, there may have been an instance where that wasn't the case. 11 years ago, there was a candidate that was brought forward to the board prior to recommendation from the town committee. But that was, you know, a circumstance that, very honestly, we got called out by the town committee for not following that practice. I think that the logical way to go is you do have a charter. I understand what the charter says, but to continue with the practice that has been a long-standing practice makes sense. It's a clear process. I understand that there has also been a question as to what makes a town committee more qualified to make a recommendation or to decide what constitutes a good board member. And I would argue that that is the very job of the town committees, that we vet candidates on a regular basis. Every candidate that gets put up for election as a member of the Board of Education is vetted through the town committee and advanced for the electorate. So for that reason, I think that it is a practice and a process that is longstanding and has worked all the years. It is the very job of town committees to advance candidates for every election. A vacancy I don't see as being that much different. The role of the board is to take that recommendation and act on it. And as you said, up or down, that would be the role of the board. And the only other point or question that I have is to the chair. When you said that this candidate that you have decided to advance, at the time that you were prepared to add that to the agenda, was this candidate qualified? Was this candidate a member of the Republican Party?
They can be a member of the party or unaffiliated with the willingness to switch. They just can't be a member of another established political party.
I'm not sure that's what the statute says, but I can't argue it because I don't have the statute.
Since the interrogation, I have checked, and I was told by legal counsel that it just cannot be a member of another party. That if the person is willing to change parties and is not affiliated to another party, that would be okay.
Did your legal counsel give you a statute for that?
No. May have. I was driving back from New Jersey. I didn't write it
Texting
down.
and
Yes, John.
Another part of my thinking is that when the town committee sends someone forward, the town committee is standing behind that person. That person is responsible in part to the town committee, far more so to themselves, but to the town committee. A person who is essentially appointed by the chairman or is offered by the chairman as a candidate might very well forever be viewed as the creature of that chairman. And I'm not sure that's a position we should put anyone in, since that person could easily go to the town committee, has 60 days to do it, actually more than 60 days, because the next meeting is until the 17th of December to get that approval.
Actually, it's 60 days from the day of the resignation.
Well, from the day it's announced or from the day that it's accepted, or
Well,
or is that the legal counsel's idea too?
between the RTC and myself, there's a difference on I didn't seek a legal opinion on it. It just says 60 days or 2 meetings. And this being our second meeting, I just said it's our second meeting. And to avoid having to call a special meeting next Wednesday night when we already have something else going on, I said,
We have lots of special meetings. We could have one between now and December 17th and not even notice it.
okay.
So, just, I'm trying to understand this. So what would have happened if you didn't find someone and the Republican Town Committee didn't come up with someone prior to the 60 days of this meeting?
It is the city council's job to appoint someone. It then reverts to their responsibility to appoint someone. If we were to take no action tonight, or we were to deny both candidates, the 60 days would expire, and it would be city council's responsibility to appoint someone. Anytime it goes past that 2 meetings or 60 days, it's the responsibility then of the city council.
And then the board has the option to either accept or no.
If it's appointed by the city council, that is
Appointed,
then
just
amended.
appointed.
But here again, past practice has, and boards have gone beyond 60 days in this filling the vacancy. And the city council has never taken it under its, under its role to fill that vacancy. And I mean, I can't speak for the city council whether they would, exercise that authority in this case. But, this 60 days is, it's written in the charter, I think, as in anything, a simple request for an extension due to circumstances beyond your control or a meeting schedule. I can't imagine that the city council would deny the board its opportunity to fill that vacancy.
But it really wouldn't be an extension to the board, it would be an extension to the political party that was unable to get a candidate. So it really wouldn't be us asking, because, as I said last night, there was no catastrophic event that led to the inability to have a candidate in 60 days. I mean, if we'd have had a blizzard that caused 2 weeks of travel turmoil or something of that nature, where there was some catastrophic event, yes, I feel that we could respectfully have asked for an extension. But having had no reason other than it just didn't get around to it, I don't consider that to be a reason for us to not act. So that was why I felt that we should have somebody within the 60 days, because I didn't feel that, we earned an extension, let's put it that way, because we didn't have any major reason. Yes?
I don't think anyone would deny this board is a very busy board.
Well, I'm just saying, there was no they write the statutes for a reason. I mean, when I get pulled over for speeding, I don't get to debate whether the speed's really necessary or not. There's a reason it's written in there, so I didn't feel that we qualified for an extension, because again, nothing major other than we just didn't get there. I got John's concern.
But we don't need an extension. We got our candidate within the time frame. That's not an issue. I don't know why we're talking about it. It's not an issue.
And the town committee voted on their candidate that they brought forth.
I don't believe so. It was just
The
a
town committee
recommendation.
doesn't often vote on candidates for things like this. But that's an internal issue.
No, that's not accurate, actually. I was voted on.
Well, maybe your town committee, but ours is not quite as diligent about consulting the entire membership.
I always thought it went to the town committee.
Maybe it has.
That's why they had the time, because you have once a month meetings, so usually they try and get that candidate to the town committee. So that candidate hasn't been vetted through their own town committee.
Yes,
I don't-
through the recruitment committee, yes.
But they didn't do, the town committee didn't get together and vote.
So ultimately, though, again, it is not a political committee's responsibility to fill this position. Whether the committee vetted it through their full staff or not, it is this board's responsibility to appoint someone. So there has been a candidate forwarded by the Republican, what did you call it? Candidate recruitment?
Yes.
Okay. Candidate recruitment committee. And, I'm saying I put one forward. There was somebody that came forward, so I put it forward. somebody has to hang their name on it, I talked to the person and I felt that person met the qualifications, so I put their name.
Go back to what I originally said. I'd like to see the board vote tonight on the candidate that the Republican Town Recruitment Committee recommended, see if that passes. If it doesn't pass, then we'll take the next step to view your candidate. And then if we get the first candidate to fill the position that needs to be filled now, then we wait until the next full board meeting. And why aren't we having a full board meeting in November?
We are.
Well, why did you say?
Because that's
the
60
second
days. That's the
What's that?
second one of those meetings, the 60 days or the
Well,
second
Chris
meeting.
just resigned, so.
That's what he's talking about, for the second position. it would
Right,
be
so
2
that's why I'm
meetings in
saying,
60
so
days.
we don't have to deal with the second
Until
position
December.
tonight until the next board meeting.
Until
But-
December.
And it would be nice to fill it tonight, but.
Just for the simple reason. We have 3 negotiations going on right now. We need members that, everybody has conflicts. So we haven't been able to fill our negotiation committees. And when we have a reduced staff, it just makes it that much harder to get enough people together to do the recruitment. And, we have members now that due to business and personal reasons can't attend, but everybody else is already on a negotiation committee, so you don't have anybody to pull from. So that was, we need to fill the board to 10 people so that we can perform the way we're supposed to perform.
And we also have grievances, and
Right.
bargaining, and all that's going on, and certainly not enough people to do it.
Well, we're only going to be one person down with Chris gone.
Yes.
Let's go through the process like we said and make a call out to the Republican Town Committee to vet your candidate or any other candidates who they can and get it done within the next month.
I like that thinking.
Anyone else?
I would like to see us consider both candidates tonight. I think we need to fill the spots, although we just received Chris's resignation. He hasn't been around for a month. We've been struggling to cover all these meetings that we have to cover. We need more feet on the ground and get back to work here.
But you might have to struggle more if people feeling some real animus against this process decide that they're not going to participate in these meetings that you think are so vital to be held over the next couple of weeks.
We're not getting much participation now, so I'm not really sure what's going to be different.
It's not that we feel they're vital. Negotiations and grievances are vital. They have to happen within a statutory time, so it's not a personal opinion.
You
It's-
probably do it with 9 members over the next 3 or 4 weeks, or have a special meeting. But I don't like the idea of entertaining any candidate who hasn't been put forth by the town committee of the candidate, of the person who's left. Just don't like it.
I think we have 2 open positions currently. One that needs to be filled this evening, one that if we fill it this evening, wonderful. If we don't fill it this evening, we have at least another meeting, possibly 2, to be able to fill that position in. Wouldn't it make the most sense to sit down, review both candidates that are sitting before us, as it is our responsibility to work together as a team? Decide whether or not both candidates or neither candidate actually fit with this board and make our decision. If we end up picking both candidates, we fill both positions. If we end up picking neither candidate, we still have an open position that stays there, goes back to the town committee, which gives them a week before it falls to city council. If we pick one of the positions, we fill the immediate need, which gives another couple of months to try to solve the other problem. But we keep going back and forth over what's right, what's wrong. We have one immediate need, 2 possibilities with the option for 2 positions. So why not do the logical thing, review both candidates and make our pick?
Because if you want to follow the premise of past practice, the board has never interviewed a candidate. We have never sat someone at that table and bombed them with questions. Jeremy didn't have to do it, you didn't have to do it, Carl didn't have to do it. how is that right or fair to say we're going to sit here and interview someone and bombard them with questions? I mean, we would now have to ask Jeremy to go sit at that table, and we're gonna throw tomatoes at him, because we never did. I mean, I just think that you're putting someone, and then I'm gonna go back to the comment, no offense, but what makes us qualified to make that decision? I mean, the taxpayers make the decision of who's an elected official. What gives us the right to say we know more than the rest of the taxpayers? And we're gonna interview someone and make that decision. I just think, if you wanna go past practice, I think you have to go all in. If you don't wanna go past practice, then you come out. I mean, you can't go half and half. I just don't see that as legitimate or fair. I mean, we do have an executive session on here where we can go in and we can discuss the two candidates, and we don't have resumes on either one of them. We can go in and talk about some small bios that I received on each one, and we can come back out and make a decision if we want to move one, move two, not move, jump up and down, and go to number 13, motion to adjourn.
If we're talking about past practice has always been that the board, days before, would read in the newspaper that this person was going to be nominated. So why is it that we have such secrecy about these two candidates on this appointment? You know, just going back with the type of secrecy that this board seems to like to display, as far as not letting anyone know what they're doing, what the administration's doing, until it's done. So, I mean, I was pretty upset to find out that I was a candidate and no one knows who these candidates are. Why is it? I mean, they're going to be public officials. Why can't we know beforehand who they are? It's not like they're interviewing for a job opportunity here.
You can know.
You know, why wasn't it made known to the public? Why didn't papers pick up on the fact Friday that there were two candidates and who the names were?
Well, one is not my job to give the name out of the Republican Town Committee's recommendation. In the past, they do a press release.
Except
Yeah,
that
why
letter is a
didn't
public
the
document.
Republican
The letter
Town
that was sent
Committee
to you
do
is a
that?
public document. It could have been. I think, with all due respect, I think it was a timing issue. I think, you know, the letter that was sent to the board chair by the town committee did go out on Friday. I think it was probably hand-delivered as opposed to
No, it was email.
posted, okay.
It was email. So
You
that there
know,
was a
and
time.
I suspect, you know, it's all about timing, and I'm gonna guess the same. I mean, if the board chair was looking at this other candidate and as a potential candidate, you know, if that came to your attention as late as Wednesday or Thursday, knowing here again that perhaps this individual is not a registered member of the Republican Party, and while the statute is silent on it, our charter is clear on it, that this person must be a registered Republican. You know, those are the very things I think that would certainly, before you release that kind of information to the press, you know, need to be vetted and, you know, and dealt with. I don't think it was the intention, and I should speak for the board chair, my opinion was it wasn't meant to be secretive or, you know, kept under wraps. Certainly not on the part of the town committee, no intentions.
Sure.
I just have one concern, and I don't know who either of these people are, but I hope it's someone who will sit on this board, or they'll both sit on this board, and they will put the needs of our school district and being fiscally responsible, but the needs of our students so that we can create quality people, you know, in the next generation who will be intelligent and can make decisions.
And with all due respect, I appreciate hearing that, and I agree with you. I think the most important thing is what you want to see are board members that are going to be good attending board members, that are going to take the time to make sure that they are up to speed on everything, that they are doing their due diligence. But with all due respect, it isn't the superintendent's choice as to who this candidate or the vacancy would be filled by. I understand what the need is.
It was just a comment. I don't think she was trying to weigh in on any candidate. She
No,
had stated
I don't
she
even
didn't
know who they are.
But do we want to go into executive session to discuss the two candidates? the next item on the agenda, or do we just want to move to a vote?
I think we should discuss on if we have to.
Sounds like a flimsy basis for an executive session.
We're also following past practices that are on a flimsy basis. Nothing's written down. It's a gap in the process that ought to be changed in the charter.
Did you go to executive session to discuss yours?
No. But I followed the same practice that we're saying we're following past practices. If that's gonna be the practice, then it should be in the charter. Not just because we happen to be conditioned to do it.
In fact, it is in the charter that the party sends a candidate forward and the board, okay, so what is in the charter? Because if we.
I'm just going off of what I'm hearing.
If we entertain the candidate presented by the Republican Town Committee, we will be following the charter and precedent. If we entertain the candidate brought forward only by the board chairman, we will be starting what I hope is not a new practice, but it certainly will be a new practice, even if it's only one instance.
It would be the second instance.
From how many years ago?
Does it matter?
Well,
Yeah, well, it was invented a long time ago, but we make them every day.
That would be a practice in the past.
It does make a difference.
Well,
Shows that there's a gap in the process.
Just because something happened 40 years ago doesn't mean that it's legitimate that it happened again. It might have been a mistake then, it might have been recognized, and that's why it hasn't been done since. Looking for a motion on this?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah. I will make a motion that we entertain the candidate put forward by the Republican Town Committee to fill the vacancy that we have to fill immediately, and that we defer action on the second candidate, on the second opening, to some later time.
I second that.
Discussion.
Well, I just think, if I understand past practice, that it's only right to allow the Republican Town Committee some time to vet a candidate to replace Chris. If Chris, did you just get Chris's resignation now?
Monday night.
So they haven't had a chance to even, they may have known Chris was leaving, I don't know, but his letter didn't come in. I'm thinking if it was on the other side, I would think that Democratic Town Committee would want some time to search out a candidate. I think we should go along with what's always happened. I can't believe I'm saying that because I hear, well, we always did it that way in Torrington.
In fact, it doesn't stop us from entertaining the second candidate at a later time.
Yes,
Doesn't
but
stop that.
you're right.
It
But
just won't
you're
happen tonight.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you, John, probably in a very roundabout way.
The timing and the lack of communication is a big issue for me. And I know when you were nominated, your name was recommended and brought forward 30 days before it was even being voted on. You were fully vetted in the papers and everything for 30 days. So the timing and the lack of communication by the Republican Town Committee to the board concerns me at this point. I mean, not getting the recommendation till Friday night for something that has to happen this week. And I'm not sure, maybe there was communication, I don't know. But from my standpoint, this is all just coming about in the last couple of days.
Okay. But how would voting against this motion deal with that? I mean, you've just stated a dissatisfaction, which is legitimate, I think.
Well,
I'm
I think
disappointed
bringing a
quickly.
candidate forward after the agenda's set and the posting when, ultimately someone had to be appointed tonight for that vacancy.
I got an agenda with that on as an item.
An amended agenda.
Yeah,
Right.
but in a timely fashion. We're talking about, if everybody paid their taxes in January, the post office wouldn't be crowded on April 14th and 15th. I mean, people wait until the end for a lot of things. It took this, it's after all campaign season. It took the party a little bit longer than it should have. And I agree, we should have had this before. We didn't. It just took them longer. There are things going on.
We don't know anything about either candidate, actually, so how can we knowledgeably recommend or accept if we don't know anything? I mean, if, like with Jeremy, it was 30 days and it was in the paper and, you know, we knew and we discussed, but this voting on someone, we don't have any information. And I'm not saying, you know, yay or no, we don't have the information. So how can you make an informed decision if you don't have the information?
And if the candidate's brought forward, you will then hear about that person and have the chance to vote. This doesn't stop you from voting on that person or against that person because you don't like their qualifications.
So your motion is just to bring a candidate forward?
To bring forward the candidate that was proposed in the normal way, as a normal part of the process, and to defer action on the other, and
But to bring the candidate forward to discuss, not to bring the candidate forward to approve or...
well, we would eventually have to do that tonight.
Correct, but what is your motion?
My motion is that we entertain the nomination of the Republican Town Committee tonight and defer a decision or an entertainment of any other candidate for a later meeting.
And I second it again.
You have two candidates here. I still say you need to listen to both. To just be closed-minded and blind to something doesn't make sense to me.
I take objection to being called closed-minded and blind because, after all, we will have this chance to entertain this candidate at some later time, but we will also give the Republican Town Committee a chance to find somebody to fill the seat in the normal way that's expected by the voters of the town of Connecticut, the town of Torrington.
Didn't the statute say unaffiliated can be brought forward?
No, it's silent on anything regarding party. The charter is very specific, but it must be Republican. I do. Do you need it? Do you need the numbers?
Can you read exactly what it
Yes,
says?
yeah. Which do you want first, the statute or the charter?
The chart.
Okay, if vacancies occur in the office of any member of the Board of Education, it may be filled by the remaining members of the board for the unexpired portion of the term. The filling of such vacancy by the board shall be accomplished only by majority vote of a quorum, with the chairman of the board having no vote except to break a tie. Any such vacancy remaining unfilled for 60 days or for 2 regular meetings of the board, whichever is longer, shall then be filled within a reasonable time by the Board of Councilmen. Said member shall serve for the unexpired term, portion of the term. All vacancies shall be filled by a member from the same political party in which the vacancy occurred, provided that a vacancy in the seat of any member who is not affiliated with a political party shall be filled by any resident elector of the city. The statute is 10-219, procedure for filling vacancy on local Board of Education. If a vacancy occurs in the office of any member of the local Board of Education, unless otherwise provided by charter or special act, such vacancy shall be filled by the remaining members of said board until the next regular town election, at which election a successor shall be elected for the unexpired portion of the term and the official ballot specifying the vacancy to be filled. So in this case, charter supersedes.
Yeah, it defers, state law defers to the town charter. So we can't entertain anyone who is not a Republican to fill either seat.
Okay, so Ken characterized it.
Which I don't think is the question. I don't think anybody
Well, yeah,
cares about
definitely.
the party. I think part of the problem is we're being held hostage a little bit by when regardless of party, any town committee decides to eventually get around to sending it, right?
I guess our question to Mr. Traub is, Chairman Traub, is the person that you intend to nominate a registered Republican?
No.
Oh, well then,
So that makes that issue moot.
yes it does, thank you. Half an hour later.
And at the end of the day, it's all about a lack of transparency. It's lack of, if this was, if your candidate, well, first of all, your issue's moot because you didn't bring forth a registered Republican. So that eliminates that person as of now. Doesn't mean tomorrow your candidate can't go register as a Republican. And if you want to set up a special meeting, for deposit, we're all more than willing to do it. But as far as the town committee, obviously, if they had a candidate for a period of time, and they didn't want to, for secrecy purposes, not let anyone know who their candidate was, shame on the party. And
But
once,
How many times are you gonna beat this horse?
because
It was a
it's-
timing
it's-
issue. There was no intention to keep it a secret from Andrew Nargi, because the only way you get
Point of order.
information
I'm sorry,
is
point of
from the
order.
newspaper.
we're here 45
There's
minutes.
a motion on the floor,
Motion on the floor.
Okay,
and I think this is off topic.
okay. Let's move it to a vote. All those in favor of John's motion?
Wait a second. His motion is,
The one you seconded.
yes,
The motion is to entertain the candidate from the
Right,
Republican
right,
Town
right.
Committee tonight,
right,
and to
entertain.
defer, action.
Actually, the motion
on
was to
second
move the
replacement.
Republican Town Committee candidate now and defer the second candidate to a later date. That was the motion he made, and you seconded.
I thought we were going, okay, sorry. I thought your motion is to bring forth the Republican town candidate to the party. I mean, to the board.
To the board, yeah.
And then we will decide whether or not to vote yes or no.
Right.
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 It's not like we're going, this motion isn't to accept
It's
the
based-
town committee's recommendation.
No, it's to entertain the candidate brought
Right.
forward by the Republican Town Committee,
Yeah, we're only going to entertain who that person is.
which is the way we've always done it.
Right.
Okay, those in favor?
Just clarification. So your motion is to bring the Republican nominated candidate forward for discussion?
Yes, to find out who that person is, and then take a vote on, up or down vote on that person.
Okay, so we're gonna,
So we
So we're
will,
gonna strike.
so
what's
we
said
will,
before.
so we
And we're
will.
going to say John's motion is to bring forward the Republican Town Committee candidate for consideration.
Because we have found out we can't entertain the other one tonight anyway.
So you want that to be part of the motion, or you just want your motion to be bring the Republican Town Committee candidate forward?
Thanks to the mayor's technology. no longer-
What do you want the motion to be?
That we entertain the Republican Town Committee's nominee for the vacancy on the Board of Education.
Andrew, are you still seconding?
Yes. And it should be not for the vacancy of Chris Rivero, but for the vacancy.
well, you're
That we
amending
have
the
to fill.
motion?
No, it's not, but it.
We're not in discussion.
What?
We're not in discussion right now, so are
Yeah,
you
but-
seconding his
but-
motion? You either second the motion he made or make your own motion.
Yeah, but it's ambiguous on its face.
But that's the motion, second it or don't. If you don't second it, he can make a clearer motion. You can't change the motion.
Okay. I second, and I think we all understand what we're doing.
Discussion.
Okay,
All those-
discussion is, we're all understanding it's not for Chris's vacancy.
Okay.
My only discussion is, I apologize to both these candidates, whoever they are.
I
This
know.
is horrible.
Mhm.
Apologies to both of you.
All those in favor? Opposed? It doesn't pass. Do we wish to go into executive session to discuss the candidate?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And discussion, what's the grounds for going into executive session?
It's the next item on the agenda. We have an executive session to discuss the motion, the candidate.
What's the legal standard in which we're going into executive session?
We are going into executive session under a personnel standard that you have the right to discuss a candidate prior to, we can't ask questions or interview the candidate, but we have the right to discuss and deliberate the personnel matters of this candidate, and then we can come out and make a vote.
But that person can ask to have this in open session, right now.
They can't.
Okay.
And
But the board is not obligated to invite the person into executive session.
No, but if it's an open session, everybody hears.
Yep.
Which would be a break from past practices?
We've
no,
never
that's
done this
FOI
before.
law.
gone through
That's
this
the law. The law
I don't recall
says.
standing up in front of everybody.
We've never pulled teeth to get a new member on the board before.
All right, do we
And if I
want to?
may, I'm sorry, if I may, in light of the decision of this board this evening not to entertain the thought of bringing back this Republican Town Committee, you are 2 regular meetings and close to 60 days, the city council can choose to make this decision for you
Yep.
on Monday. And I don't know if that changes anybody's opinion about how they
Well-
want to handle this.
Wouldn't they have to wait till the 60 days was up?
No, no.
Two
We've lost,
Wait, the 60 days are up when? He resigned August
He-
23rd, wasn't it?
He gave us the notice on the 20th, but he said in his resignation that he was resigning on September 1st. So you can start the clock on August 20th, or you can start the clock on September 1st. I thought it was August 20th, the Republican Town Committee thought it was September 1st.
Okay, so say it's September 1st, so then it's by November 1st. By November 1st, the board apparently
It's
doesn't
actually by
want
the
to get...
31st.
What's that?
The 31st, because there's an extra.
So the board doesn't seem to want to get together for a special full board meeting to do this process. Then I
You
guess...
just said the board would be more than welcome to do that.
No, I would be willing to do it, but I don't think, obviously, based
Did
on...
you
the
ask
vote-
anyone, or you're making an assumption based on everyone else in the room? We didn't even ask that question.
Let's ask if the rest of the board wants to meet.
Wait, first, don't we have a motion for executive session?
Yes.
I asked if we wanted to go into executive, anyone want, oh, Jeremy made a motion to go into executive session, yes, and Dan seconded it.
We should just take care of it before anything else.
Correct.
Those in favor of going in?
Is there a request of the people that are here as to whether or not they choose to have an open session? Because it is their right to request.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my name is Bill Knight. I live at 83 50th Avenue here in Torrington. I'm the person you're talking about, and I'm more than comfortable to have it done in open session.
Thank you. Okay. Discussion?
discussion about what?
Is there any further discussion on the Republican Town Committee recommendation?
Time to hear a bio, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's raining. Okay. Bill or William?
Bill,
Bill Knight is a Torrington resident and has been one for over 16 years. He lives here with his wife Lois and their adopted daughter Mika. Mr. Knight is currently a member of the Board of Selectmen. He was elected to this post in 2011. He was re-elected to this position in 2013. Mr. Knight is active in our community as an active member of the Torrington Elementary School PTO, the Torrington Lions Club, the Salvation Army, and he's an active member of his church. Mr. Knight also has served on governor-appointed boards. He served on the State Council of People with Developmental Disabilities from November 2008 to September of 2014. He was the chair of this council in his last 2 years of service. He is currently serving on the advisory board of the Office of Protection and Advocacy for People with Disabilities.
Can you hold two elected offices?
We'll
That
defer to
was
the
an
charter.
elected, that was appointed.
No,
Selectmen.
Oh, selectmen, yes.
which Mr. Knight presumably would resign from, just as Mr. Cavagnaro did when he was,
Which is deflected, right?
We've assumed that, nobody asked.
Is that presumable?
Mr. Knight, will you resign your
Sure
position?
will.
Another presumable?
Yeah, really.
I've known Mr. Knight. I was on the Republican Town Committee at one time, and I've always liked Mr. Knight. He's a hard working individual, shows up to all the meetings, and is a very concerned citizen in the city of Torrington, and I would be more than happy to recommend his appointment to this board.
Period. Discussion. Do you have any discussion?
I don't know, Mr. Knight, I assume that if recommended by the Republican Town Committee, that they know what they're doing, my assumption. And Andrew's recommendation.
Just the question, can he be appointed to this board while still the selectman? Because I know with
Yes.
Paul, he had to resign from this before he could accept the city council.
No.
Is that not the same?
That's not, it's, no, and actually Paul Cameron did not need to resign this board either. You can actually serve both,
Would the people of Torrington want people
which is why
serving in
he
multiple
chose to,
positions?
which is why he chose to resign. You know, he had no desire to serve both boards. But there is a quirky little law that does allow for them to serve two elected positions. And selectmen, as we all know, is really, you know, one of those very ceremonial positions that parties, for whatever reason, have never moved to have it removed from the ballot. It's in the charter that it's done. There is no duty, no responsibility for a selectman to a party or to the city.
Yes, John.
I have nothing to add to what Mr. Nargi said, but I can endorse everything he said on exactly the same basis. I think Mr.
I
Knight
was
would be
going around.
really welcome
Go ahead.
addition.
No, go ahead.
Likewise, I can share with this board that in the year, 11 years ago, Bill Knight and I were running on the same ticket for Board of Education. I will share a brief story with the board. During the campaign, during the debates that were held back then, Bill Knight was just so on point with every answer. He was so studied and so learned about the things, the challenges that the Board of Education faced, that I just felt he was certainly a highly qualified candidate. Unfortunately, he was eked out a little bit by, to quote him, by Doug O'Connell. But he certainly did demonstrate throughout that whole process that he was prepared for board service, he was willing to do the hard work, and certainly made it a point to be well informed.
Daniel?
I've had the pleasure of speaking with Bill on a few occasions at town committee meetings. I will not dispute anything anybody says. He is extremely well versed and knows his subjects well. My concern here is the fact there have been several major elections for the Board of Education in the last several years, and at no point has the Republican Town Committee brought Bill forward during any of those major elections, even when there were seats open. That concerns me, as he has been a long-standing member of the Town Committee.
Jerry, do you have anything?
No.
No? Okay. John?
I would suggest that the last comment we heard is more a matter of partisan party politics rather than Board of Ed policy. That, in other words, it refers to something within the Republican Party rather than the qualifications of the individual for the Board of Education. I understand, I don't doubt it's true, you know, from your point of view, but I'm not sure we need to consider that.
Everyone's entitled to give their opinion.
Yes,
I didn't censor anybody, so I don't really see where your censoring of Dan's comment is warranted, because nobody said anything about anyone else's.
I guess I'm free to say that if I want to, people can take it for whatever they want.
Yes, they can. Thank you. Any other discussion? We're on to agenda item number 6, which is approval of new board member of education. Do we have a motion?
I nominate Mr.
Andrew?
Knight.
Second.
I don't really know if we need discussion. I think we of accepting Mr. Knight. 2, 3. Opposed?
Wait, we gotta,
Oh, 4. Sorry. Opposed? Abstaining? 3 abstaining. Welcome, Mr. Knight.
I would like to make a motion or now consider filling Chris Rivera's vacancy with the candidate that was brought forward by the chair.
I thought, sorry.
I can make the motion, you guys can not second it or not approve it, but
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
I mean, I think the candidate has stated that they would register as a Republican. We're accepting Mr. Knight prior to his resignation as selectman. So I would like to see the board consider, at least find out about this candidate.
You seconded?
I'll second the motion for discussion. First thing is, Mr. Knight doesn't have to resign as selectman, so that issue's moot. And the other issue, which I thought we had clarified, was until this person officially becomes a member of the Republican Party, he cannot, what are we voting on? We're going to vote with a contingency that he, in the next 24 hours, next week, whatever period of time that he becomes a member of the Republican Party. I don't know if that's legally correct to be able to do that at this point. I'm not saying anything negative about the candidate. I don't know the candidate. I'm just saying, I don't think by statute he can be nominated if he's not a Republican Party member at the point in which you want to nominate him. If tomorrow he comes back and you want to get together as a board special meeting tomorrow night, that's fine by me. But I just don't think you can legally do that.
Any other discussion?
I would think that if the city charter is clear that it has to be a member of the party, then we can't entertain them until they officially switch, unfortunately.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Because if nobody's in favor.
1, 2, 3. You're opposed.
You're opposed to Fiona's motion, that's what you take, that's your polling out, right?
Well, I did 4, I did oppose, now I'm doing abstaining. You're against? Okay, so there was 3 against and 4 abstaining. So, good.
Now, will you be so kind as to give us the name of your candidate so that Mr. Nargi's transparency request can be honored?
Technically, the person is not a candidate, correct?
Yeah.
So, no.
Well, I was asking the chairman.
No.
There you go.